Welcome in, everybody. This is episode 155 of Calibrated with Scott. I'm your host, Scott, of course. As always, let's see. Remember, guys, I always like to see where you're from. Greetings from Italy. Hello. Hello from rainy Netherlands. I love the rain. Sorry that if you don't like the rain, but that sounds good to me. Hello from Nigeria. Hi from Poland. Canada. Let's go, boys. Let's go. We got everybody in here. I'm just going to go ahead and throw this up just as a little friendly reminder. The easiest way you can support Calibrated YouTube channel, support Scott, support anything Calibrated, Telegram, Twitter. Remember, you can follow me. You can find all of those links in the description of this video on YouTube. And also remember, it is free to like, comment, and subscribe. It helps me get seen by more people, gets more people from around the world in our audience. And here we go. Let's see. Hello, greetings from rainy UK. Nice. The island boys. Hi from Montenegro. Hi from Finland. Hi from, turning in from Vermont. Nice. North Wales here. Beautiful. Cheers from Sweden. Hello from Chad. Thank you for the early live for us Europeans. Yeah, no problem. No, hello Chad, not hello from Chad. That's funny. I was like, Europeans, excuse me. Hi from Florida. Hi there. Did you remove my comments on a tweet regarding press taking photos? No, I don't remove comments unless it's like something that's like aggressive towards me personally, or like the bots that are on every page now. No, I don't remove comments. I might not have seen it. I don't know. I don't know exactly what you're talking about. Cheers from Sweden. Hello from Sweden. Let's see. Spain. Nice, guys. Nice. Greetings from beautiful Baltimore. Sweden, South Africa, Athens, Greece. Awesome, guys. Awesome. I tried to do this live stream at a time where we could get our Euro bros and our Ameri bros in here. So it seems like it's working out. But yeah, without further ado, we can just get into it. We have a lot of really big updates. Not so much major updates, which is funny to say because they would be major a year ago. They would be like front breaking basically, or news breaking. Now they're just sort of normal updates, 18 to 25 square kilometers per update that we're seeing across the front. The Russians are now moving pretty fast day to day. Soon we'll probably be reaching the 100 square kilometers a day sort of level. And that might not be every single day, but compared to this time last year, the Russians have almost captured as much territory in the first month of June as they did in the entire month of June, in the first week of June, as they did in the entire month of June last year. So that just goes to show how much faster the Russians are moving, almost 4 times the speed of last year. We just have a lot to talk about. We have the Russian response to the Ukrainian cobweb operation, spiderweb, whatever you want to call it. We have some new details on just a bunch of different things. So we're gonna dive into all of that. I really appreciate you all being in here today. And yeah, let's see. Sumi is becoming a problem for Russia. Not really. That's actually the exact opposite. I think you're talking about one small area over the border, and we will talk about that today. So not really. Yeah, let's see. Let's go ahead and just move right into the updates, shall we? We'll get these out of the way sort of quick here. All right, so up in the good old Sumi region here. Sorry, just fixing some stuff. There we go. I'm going to get rid of this comment here. Okay, let's go. In the Sumi region, we have Russian advances basically across the entire front. This front is now growing, expanding, and becoming a major issue for the Ukrainians. That comment that you saw just a second ago where it said Sumi is becoming a real problem for the Russians, that's all happening in this little area right here. So what he's referring to is, I'm not going to give this to the Ukrainians. I'm just going to show you this because this is sort of what's going on. The Ukrainians have sort of pushed into these fields, and they're just making some progress towards Tetkino, which there's some resources that are saying that the Russians are now operationally encircled, which I guess is technically true. The Ukrainians could have fire on this road here. However, I don't think the Ukrainians are maintaining very stable positions in this area of the border region, whereas they're just sort of marching up this single tree line here. So when you say the Russians are in trouble in Sumi, that's what he's talking about right there, is basically a one tree line that the Ukrainians are running in and trying to either delay a Russian push through this region because there is some substantial high ground, and getting near the village of Bielopila will help that development onto the high ground to the west of Sumi itself. But yeah, so that's pretty much what's going on up there. It's nothing overly major. So yeah, I don't know what sources you're reading. I don't know who's telling you that this is a horrible situation. I've seen AMK talk about it a little bit. But yeah, it's a very small section of the front. So it's not like a hugely massive undertaking happening by the Ukrainians here. Also, they have been doing this regularly for weeks and weeks now. So this is not something really new, although there has been a geolocation of them deeper in this area right here. But again, worst case scenario here for the Russians is that the Ukrainians push up and just kind of cut off this little nub here, right, that goes into the Sumi region. So that's it's not going to solve all of the issues happening on the other side of the map over here. All right, heading over to the Sumi region, Russian forces have advanced out of Kindarivka, out of Andrivka, and out of Oleksivka here in the direction of Khotin, which is sort of the objective that I had talked about. Gotta move this up here. So this is sort of the objective that I talked about, and I will put up my prediction here. You can see that the Russians are almost completely done with my Sumi prediction. This was my Sumi buffer zone prediction, and they're almost there. This has happened incredibly fast, and when they are done, the area that they should control is something in the range of 142 square miles, which give me a second here. Got to grab my keyboard. 367 square kilometers, right? So that's what the Russians are looking at capturing in the Sumi region, and that would put them in fantastic position to start gaining operational control over the city of Sumi. Ukrainian sources are already reporting that the Russian FPV drones are operating well within the city. The front line is less than 17 kilometers away. So the Russians are directly on the border of the city of Sumi, and now they will begin to put pressure on the roads coming in. And guys, the difference here, it is a big city. It is going to be hard for the Russians to push it, right? But the difference is that Sumi is less of a priority right now for the Ukrainians compared to some of the more major battles like Pokrovsk happening in the east of the country. Pokrovsk holds back a ton more Russian troops. This urban conglomerate right here, Pokrovsk Minhorod, they control a lot more Russian troops. A lot of Russian troops have to be in this area. There are a lot of Ukrainian forces in this area, substantial defenses, and the Ukrainians have just focused on the east this entire time. So this is not. I would say that this Pokrovsk is more important to the Ukrainians than Sumi for every reason in terms of a military aspect, but from a publicity aspect, the Ukrainians cannot lose the Sumi region. So at some point here, we're going to have to see a decision made by whoever's in charge. You're going to have to either start losing cities cities in the east, or you're going to have to start losing cities on your border. And whichever one you choose, it's just like the lesser of two terrible options for the Ukrainians right now. So this is moving quickly, expected to continue moving. Russian forces have captured the village of Varashine, have captured the village of Yablanivka, have about half control of the village of Yonikivka. And this doesn't necessarily mean that there's like Russians right here, guys. I always try to explain this. My map doesn't really have gray zones. So I put the line at where I think the Russians have the maximum extent. Like if they were to walk past this line, they would be moving into Ukrainian held territory is basically what that is. That doesn't mean that the gray zone is included in this. It just means that this is like the point where if you just cross this line, they would say you're in Ukrainian territory. All right, and then just a small advance here outside of Sadaki, which is along the border. So again, not a major advance, just the whole front is just moving in on the Sumi region. And then the Russian forces have entered the Sumi region through the Belgorod region here near Demidovka, and have captured the village of Marin, something like that, right here. Which again, if I can actually take us over to the topographical map. Topographical map. It's time for the topographical map. If you want to learn what the Russians are going to do, just look at the topographical map. All right, here we go. Sumi. What happened? Where are we? Oh, right here. Okay, so here's the Sumi region. Here's that high ground that the Russians are moving down onto, as I've showed you. And then over here is Demidovka, and Russian forces are moving into the high ground over here now, which is west of Sumi. So this is, again, important. If the Russians can gain control of this high ground, then it would put the Ukrainians into a terrible position in Sumi. And the Battle of Sumi would probably likely begin. If you look at Sumi, just look around it. Again, the city is in a very low point. So if the Russians command the heights to the north, they will control the roads into the city. It is going to make holding the city a very difficult task unless the Ukrainians are willing to commit a lot of resources here. And this is the area right here where the Ukrainians and Russians are fighting inside of the Kursk Oblast. And if they are to, push the Ukrainians out and then push in, they would just follow this road down along this high ground, gaining control over this high ground and fire control over the other highways into Sumi itself. So we could be looking at a lot of movement in this area very soon. A lot more movement. There has been a lot of movement. Guys, remember, if you have questions, you can always ask those questions through Super Chats. I answer those right away. If you do have questions, I might get to them in the chat. You can go ahead and throw them up. Sometimes I do Q&A at the end. So I'll do one question right now. Let's see. Hey, Scott, I have a question. What is preventing the Russians from destroying all the bridges across the Dnieper? Yeah, we can talk about that. I'll talk about that in a little bit. Get through the rest of these updates. Okay. Back over to the map. Okay. Moving over to the Limansky front here. Liman right here. Russian forces have just advanced slightly above Zelene Dolina. The Russians have advanced a ton here in the past week. There's there is probably a slight operational pause. That doesn't mean that operations have ceased, only that the Russians might be rotating in this area, so the advances might be slower. But the next goal of the Russians, as they have secured the high ground, is now to push towards Vovochi Yar, push towards Lozove, and cut off the entire Ukrainian pocket to the north, at which point they should start an offensive towards Borova from every direction in this salient, as supplies will be getting much tighter here. So this is a major red flag for the Ukrainians, and they need to deal with it quickly. Right, moving down to Toretsk, we have a small advance just outside of Toretsk, nothing major. Moving over to the Konstantinivka front here, Russian forces have moved further into Yablanivka. Again, a smaller advance. Again, this is an area right here where the Ukrainians have likely somewhat stabilized the front. But guys, remember that the objective is not a particular advance in one direction. It is stretching and pulling a strained and drained Ukrainian army across an entire front. That includes Zaporozhye, Kharkov, Sumi, and the east of the country. And that's exactly what we're seeing. Moving down here, Russian forces have advanced north of Shevchenko-Perche and into the next fortification line. Again, not a terribly major advance, although it does bring the Russians closer to cutting off supply into Minhorod and Pokrovsk. Moving down to the, what would we call this? The Dnipropetrovsk front now, technically. Here in Novosharivka, Russian forces have captured a majority of the village and are now directly poised on the Dnipropetrovsk border. Moving to the south, Russian forces... My dog's barking, sorry. Something at the door. Russian forces have advanced... No, nobody's at the door. He's just barking. Russian forces have advanced at north of Oleksivka through the fields here. Again, another major advance totaling close to 20 square kilometers. Just advancing through these strong defensive lines. As we talked about, the Ukrainians have a difficult logistics time getting down into this fortified area now that the Russians have pushed north of Odrande. And have put pressure onto the road that goes through Deshane. So this is, again, a developing situation for the Ukrainians, but this pocket right here could be very close to collapse. Let's see. Scotty, what do you think? Oh, my goodness. Hold on. I got to shut my door. Sorry. He's barking at I don't know what. Scotty, what do you think is happening for real? Did someone come to Putin and say, you fight or we replace you? Enough is enough? No, nothing has changed. I'm gonna talk about this when we get into the strikes. I mean, you could say a slight tempo has shifted, but this is what was going to happen at the end of this negotiation process anyway. It was never going to develop into something so significant. This isn't some massive retaliation against the Ukrainians. It's more just like a continuation of what they've been doing. They are heavily targeting military defense capabilities, infrastructure. So drone development, all of that different stuff. But you haven't seen any really escalatory strikes by the Russians outside of potentially one thing that we're going to talk about here. No, I think that Putin has been done. I think you guys are confused. At least I think you are about Putin's position. Putin is a politician. He is not the one who is making decisions when it comes to the military aspects of the war, besides like the absolute most important aspects of it. He is just the figurehead. He is the voice. He is the president, and I'm not saying he doesn't have influence over these things, but he's not sitting there dictating which areas get bombed by the Russian military. No, they come to him and tell him what they've done over X amount of times. And if he says, "Hey, I need an escalatory option," they bring it to him and they say, "Choose one of these." No, this is just the plan. He has to settle the conflict. He has to appear as though he's trying to settle the conflict. And then once that fails, once the political theater is done, and he's not going to be, crucified by all of his supporters or whatever for whatever he's about to do, that's what happens, right? And this spiderweb operation, cobweb operation that the Ukrainians pulled, destroying strategic bombers, attacking the nuclear triad, blowing up bridges within Russia, which dropped onto passenger trains, killing civilians, and striking the Crimean Bridge. These are all things that we have seen over the past week or so. And all it does is gives Putin the absolute right to do whatever he wants. And that's what he was waiting for. And now he gets to do it. And nobody's going to say anything. Is anybody going to say anything to him? Because if anybody touched China's nuclear triad or India's nuclear triad or the United States' nuclear triad or Israel's nuclear capabilities, I don't know if India actually has a nuclear triad. But, their strategic nuclear forces. If these are touched, how would they want to respond to this? They can't come out and say, "Oh, Russia's acting so immaturely." I mean, even Trump. You saw what Trump said, right? I can show you here. Let me go to my profile and pull up the video of Trump talking, and I will play that for you guys so you can hear exactly what he said about the conversation he had with Putin, and when Putin was talking to him about what strikes he was going to conduct. And Trump made it very clear. Let me bring this up. Okay. Here we go. I'll come back to my updates in just a second, but this is important. This does make sense. Here.
Did the Ukraine drone strikes against the bombers inside Russia, the airfields, did that change your view at all of what Zelensky, the cards he has?
Well, they gave Putin a reason to go in and bomb the hell out of him last time. That's something I didn't like about it. When I saw it, I said, "Here we go. Now it's going to be a strike." You know, I did.
So that's him talking about it, and he said, "Well, here we go," because he knows what is going to happen. He knows that they crossed a line. Whether it was Ukraine, I think NATO fully backed it, fully supported it, told them to go do it. I think this is exactly what the US and the Pentagon wants. I think this is exactly what Europe wants. But he is a actor. He is putting on a show. So now he says, well, Russia's going to do whatever they want to do because exactly they are. And he's going to pretend like Ukraine is the one doing the bad things, even though all of the data and intelligence is provided by NATO, who, whether you think it's the Europeans or Trump can tell the Europeans no. He can just stop supplying natural gas to Germany, who's now cut off from Russia, and that would just destroy Germany, right? He can say, stop giving them intelligence. Don't give them missiles. Don't help them develop drone technology. Don't do this. He doesn't do it. Why doesn't he do it? Because this is exactly what he wants, right? So, no, Putin did not. Nobody gave Putin anything. Nobody told him, gave him an ultimatum. No, nothing like that. This has been the plan. Putin has to pretend to be a political, like an equal equality political figurehead. He has to be willing to go to negotiations. He has to be a statesman before he is some sort of military leader. And you're seeing it. And now Russia has the freedom and ability to do whatever they want to Ukraine, and it will all be within the reasonable bounds of retaliation. Hi, Scott. I think I heard or read that the Russians have committed only 50,000 troops to the Sumi offensive. Is that enough to encircle the city? It really just depends on how weak the Ukrainians are in the region. If there are 10,000 Ukrainian defenders, yes, that is enough. I don't think the goal is really to surround the city. And if it is, you will see a larger influx of troops into that region. Although the Sumi region itself right now is not large enough, like the incursion zone. There's not enough urban area. There's not enough infrastructure to support 50,000 troops. So when they say 50,000 troops, I think they mean 50,000 troops in the Kursk-Belgorod region supporting the Sumi offensive, probably closer to 10 to 20,000 infantrymen in that general area within Ukraine itself. So not exactly 50,000 men pushing into the city or anything like that. You have logistics, you have artillery, you have drone teams, you have everything going on in the back. All right. Back over to the map. We have just a couple more updates and we are out of here. But guys, I just want you to I'm going to just click on a few of these just so you can kind of see. So in the Sumi region, we have 12, 16, 18. So oh, my numpad, it doesn't work. 46 square kilometers in the Sumi region since my last live stream on Monday, right? So that's pretty wild. 46 square kilometers in this region alone since Monday. Now moving over to the Constantinople Propasnaya sort of direction, the Dnepropetrovsk front, we have 1.5. Let's just 1.7. So 10 and 9. So 20. Again, very close to 50 square kilometers in this direction in less than 1 week's time. And then moving down into the Zaporozhye direction, we have the Russians moving in the direction of Holyai-Polye, which, if you guys remember my prediction for what the Russians are aiming to achieve over the summer and into the fall before winter, is the village of Holyai-Polye, the village of Orehivka, or Orehiv, sorry, basically pushing out the entirety of the southern Donetsk region, potentially pushing into the Dnepropetrovsk region. Pokrovsk and Minhorod, capturing this city, at least getting to a position where they are putting extreme pressure on Konstantinivka, the city of Kupiansk. Let's see. I think they're going to do some sort of Kharkov incursion into this area, but don't count on that. And then obviously the buffer zone from Chernihiv down to Kharkiv. But I think that this area over here is going to see a ton of movement. So just be on the lookout for that. But yeah, so that's the advances, and this advance in particular is not overly outstanding, although this is moving through some pretty dense Ukrainian fortifications in this area. I just don't have them mapped here because I don't have a clear idea of where they are exactly. But pushing into Holyai-Polye will again do the exact same thing that pushing to Velika Novoselka did. And you can see what that has done for the Russians on the outside. Velika Novoselka is now at some points 17 kilometers, 18 kilometers in the rear. At other points, 14, 15. So Russians are moving quick, guys. Quick. Never seen the war move this fast before since I've been covering it. All right. Okay. All right. I had a couple of topics that I wanted to talk about with regards to the Ukrainian military. So go ahead and go to my bookmarks. Okay. I wanted to talk about this first. This is a Ukrainian who has posted desertion rates within the Ukrainian armed forces. So these are men who have been picked up by military mobilization forces, trained and then taken to the front. Or they desert from like training camps or whatever, and it's really hard for the Ukrainians to get these guys back once they've gone AWOL. So, desertion rates in the Ukrainian armed forces, according to Ukrainian journalist Vladimir Boyko, in the first 5 months of 2025, 90,590 criminal proceedings were registered under Articles 408 and 407 relating to unauthorized abandonment of a military unit, so desertion. In January, 18,000, February, 17,000, March, 16,000, April, 18,000, May, 19,000. For everybody who doesn't know, as of June 1st, Ukraine has a total of 213,000 desertions recorded. That is just recorded. That is not the entire desertions. Those are just the ones that have been mentioned. And a criminal report has been made on them. That doesn't include people who are bribing their way out and stuff like that, who aren't being reported. As of June 1st, 2025, 213,000 cases of desertion had been registered. So in the last 5 months, the total number of desertions in the AFU has doubled. The Ukrainian army is bleeding from every single end. They're bleeding on the battlefield, they're bleeding domestically, and they're bleeding just on their own. This is just self-bleeding, right? Desertions. So in a army that has incredible manpower issues, you are seeing as many desertions in a month probably as men are being mobilized. So they're just going backwards is what that means. All right. Wanted to talk about that post. Okay, now I'm going to talk about the Russian response. Russian retaliation to the Ukrainian operation that destroyed bombers, killed civilians, took down some bridges in the Bryansk region, and killed civilians on a civilian train. They did time the bridge to come down on the train. And really, to me, the strikes on the bridge for Putin seemed much, much more important than the strikes on the bombers. I think there's some sort of like kind of understanding that the Ukrainians have a right to go after these aircraft, and that they're sort of considered outside the realm of the nuclear triad, even though they are a part of it. The Russians don't seem to respond, other than in rhetoric, to the attacks on their strategic aviation. And this isn't the first time this has happened. There have been multiple instances of strategic aviation being lost to Russian drone or to Ukrainian drone strikes. This one was the most successful, but it wasn't really anything like, there was no line really being crossed. You can say that every time they cross that line, it's fine, but they've already been across that line. So it's not like new territory is being touched or anything like that. But when Putin made his speech, he specifically referred to the attacks, the terrorist attacks in the Bryansk region. He didn't even talk about the nuclear triad being attacked. Maybe that's to save embarrassment. I don't know. But everybody saw it, so there's no reason he shouldn't talk about it. And he made it a very clear point that the detonation of these bridges, timed when these civilian trains were passing underneath them, was a deliberate terrorist attack. And when he was talking about this, he mentioned terrorism about he mentioned terrorism about let's see, 6 times. I think he said it 6 times when he was talking about the Ukrainian regime. So that's Putin openly calling the country that he is now at war with, I would say, for all intents and purposes. He has been at war with them, but from a Russian perspective, I think now they're like, okay, negotiations are never going to happen. The Ukrainians have given us the ability to do whatever we want. They messed up big time, and I think that there might be actually some contention between I'm split right now between whether I believe that the U.S. was on board with this operation. I think there might have been people, subsections of the U.S. Elite establishment that was on board with this. But in general, I think that the idea is achieve a ceasefire, because the ceasefire is how you freeze the conflict. That's the idea. The U.S. cannot continue the conflict, but it will continue the conflict if it can't achieve a temporary ceasefire to pump arms into the country, right? So it's like the worst of 2 options, but you have to choose one of the options because you have to keep going forward. There's no way you can actually go and have negotiations and actually settle the conflict, because if that happens, Europe is paying for Ukraine, the U.S. isn't making money, and Russia is not being deteriorated any longer, which is the whole idea behind the Ukraine project. So the strikes that were conducted on Russia, while significant and achieved a large PR game, have no effect on what is happening inside of Ukraine. And this retaliation very clearly showed that. I mentioned in my last episode the fact that, you could have 50% of the Russian strategic aviation be destroyed, and it doesn't have an effect on the Ukraine conflict. Iskanders and Garand 2 drones are doing more damage than any of those planes ever do. And even if 50% were taken down, the Russians used 4 Tu-20 or Tu-95s in the last strike, which was incredibly successful and did significant damage to multiple military industrial facilities across Ukraine, including Zhytomyr region, Ternopil region, Dnipropetrovsk, Kharkov, Kiev, all of these cities, Odessa, they got hit a ton. They got hit by Iskanders, cruise missiles. Kharkov yesterday alone got hit 56 times by Iskanders, different fighter launched cruise missiles like the KH-59, and a ton of Garand drones. You can go find all of that footage on my Telegram. I can't show it, but the Russians hit a bunch of stuff across the entire country. And a lot of people were saying, oh, is this the Russian retaliation? And this is, they came out and they said, yes, this is our retaliation, but it's really not. It is the continuation of the war that the Russians have been fighting the entire time. They don't want to escalate the conflict. The conflict is going their direction. If you escalate, you create new variables that you then have to deal with. The Ukrainians are already a wild card in and of themselves. You're about to see the wildest terrorist regime come out of Ukraine that you could have possibly imagined from a European nation. It is going to be absolutely horrific and unbelievable. They're going to do terrible, terrible things, and it's going to get worse and worse as the battlefield gets worse and worse. I'm going to take us over to our map before I show you my breakdown of one of the Russian strikes. But I just wanted to talk about where things are happening for the Ukrainians. So the Ukrainians struck the Kerch Bridge right here, the Crimean Bridge, sorry, near Kerch. They struck I believe they struck the roadside on one of the pillars with a submersible drone. That drone did not do significant damage. Traffic has resumed on the bridge, and that everything's normal there. They've been sending a ton of Neptune missiles towards the Novorossiysk harbor, or what do you call it? My goodness, where boats stay. Port right here. They've been firing a ton of Neptune missiles from Odessa in that direction. All of them have been intercepted. We're talking probably 10 missiles over the past couple of days towards that area. Have not yielded any results. The bridges they took down in the spiderweb operation were up here in the Bryansk region, which is not even an active area of the front. So if you're disrupting logistics, it's to an area where there is no Russian offensive happening. Again, doesn't make a ton of sense. And then the strategic aviation, which the Russians use 4 of them when they do their strikes. They have dozens and multiple different like models too. They have Tu-160s, which can do a lot more than a Tu-95, but they also have a lot of Tu-95s, a lot of Tu-22s. They have a ton of options. They also have in the Black Sea Fleet. They have missile carriers that can fire caliber cruise missiles. So this doesn't impact Ukraine. It just is a nice show. And that strike there was strikes all over the place, but 4,400 kilometers away from the country. If you notice, Ukraine is doing nothing important in this area. Nothing substantial is happening here, right? What you see, this little red line right here, this little red line that kind of divides Ukraine. Ukraine isn't doing anything beneficial along this entire thing. Nothing is happening here that is going well for Ukraine. A lot's going well for the Russians. And that's why they don't want you looking there. They want you looking everywhere else. All right, I'm going to head over to my strike, and my post on Twitter, and we're going to talk about it. Okay, so I'm going to just show you guys a little bit of this, but this is the Bolshevik plant in Kiev. You can see it here. I'm going to make this bigger. You can see the Bolshevik plant, and I will show you exactly what was hit. So if you look over here, the angles you will see, there was one video taken from this angle down here from one of these buildings towards this structure. There was also a video captured from this building right here looking down on this building. The fronts of these buildings are not as important as the new construction. You can see these silver roofs right here behind. This was built, or it was not here in the beginning of 2019, or in 2018, 2019. There is an 8-month gap in the satellite photos. And then in 2019, these structures are suddenly developed. I believe that this is a underground facility that the Ukrainians developed, and I do not think that it was in use for that time from 2019 until 2022. I think that it was there and not necessarily for anything in particular. It sort of looks like a nuclear bomb shelter. And what ended up happening is I think NATO came in, and I'll show you pictures and why I have evidence of this, came in and basically said, we're going to turn this into your drone manufacturing facility, your long-range drone manufacturing facility. And when you read Russian readouts, the Russians always tell you what they were aiming at. Sometimes they miss and they don't have the best, what would it be called? Where you're assessing damage, like a damage assessment afterwards. The Russians don't have the best damage assessment always. But they always tell you what they were aiming at. If they aim for a Patriot, they say they aim for a Patriot. If they miss by 100 meters, they still say they tried or they targeted a Patriot or they hit a Patriot, whatever. That's sort of the MOD's, like that. That's how they go about business. There were claims that a Patriot was hit in Kiev. That is not the case. Iskanders were fired. Patriot fired off a lot of interceptors, intercepted one of the Iskanders or KN-23s or a decoy from one of those. It's hard to tell. If it's nighttime, you can't see what exactly happens. But some of these missiles got through, and I believe one of them hit this facility, penetrated into the basement substructure, caused a major fire, and then you will see the detonations from this location. I'm going to kind of break this down and talk about it here. One of the confirmed hits during yesterday's Russian missile strike, I'm just going to read this off because it has a lot of information that I might forget. On Kiev was a building and substructure basement of the on the very edge of the Bolshevik plant. The most interesting aspect of this hit was the massive secondary explosion that occurred hours after the strike. Remember, these Iskanders, if you were paying attention to the timing, came in at about 1:30 in the morning, and you'll see that this is happening. The explosions are happening during daytime and a little later on it, or a little earlier in the night. And it was after the air raid had been lifted. So I'm just going to. You can see this very massive explosion. There is no arrival. A lot of material is going up, and this looks like explosive materials that are detonating. This is how when explosives like cook off. This is how the cloud looks. And then here is the aftermath. After that explosion, you can see the entire middle of this building is just ripped out. The buildings to the left and right are almost entirely destroyed as well. Windows are damaged on this larger building here to the side. And if we just go back and pause, you can see, oh, it's very blurry. You can see that this is that 7-story building right there that we were just looking at. And then this is the part that got blown out. Here is the building before it was destroyed. Again, this front right here is not really the important part. The important part is behind it. All right. So in the slow motion version, you can see I'll play it again. You can see that the explosion, the secondary explosion, comes from the substructure here, blows out, right, and up. And you can see the amount of debris that comes up. It's like the floor above the building, or above the basement substructure, which I'm going to show you in a second, being just launched into the air. This looks like an Israeli strike on a Hamas tunnel or something like that. Same sort of ejection profile, I guess you would say, which makes me think a substructure, a large detonation happened in a substructure, sending that material to the roof. Right? All right. Backing out of this. Yeah. And then moving down. So here again is the Bolshevik plant in Bolshevik. They say Bolshevik, but Bolshevik plant. Here is the target. Here is the area in 2019 before the structure was built. You can see it when nothing was developed in that area. And then all of a sudden, boom, there's these two huge buildings right here, right? So that's new development. There's the satellite picture. And then here is the building that blew up. Here is photos of the structure that was developed. The Ukrainians posted about it. I do believe this was actually supposed to be a nuclear bunker, not to survive a direct nuclear impact, but to, if a nuke went off somewhere else in Kiev, this hardened facility would survive and would protect you from radiation, right? So I believe that that's what it was developed for. They talked about it, talked about its creation. At least the pictures of the inside of it. And you can see here that the posts have been outlined. These are heavy load-bearing supports that are rectangularly prismed at the top to increase weight load capabilities. And you can see these bunks here. So these bunks are all for civilians or whoever in the factory even to rush down in here, get in here, survive a blast, right? Moving on to the door of this nuclear bunker, I guess you would call it. I don't know if it's necessarily a nuclear bunker, but it is a large bunker facility, massive door. And this is important. I'm showing you guys this stuff on purpose because it will come up later. And this bunker actually might have been underneath the ground level where those buildings were built on top of. But yeah. Here you can see the drone facility, which they removed all of the bunks, potentially put in more ventilation and a sprinkler system, because when you start manufacturing drones, you have to have a sanitary, clean area. You have to have, if you're dealing with explosives, you have to have sprinkler systems, obviously ventilation, if chemicals, stuff like that. So this is a full assembly line. It looks to be in a basement. And let me go here. And you can see that the pillars match, which does not mean necessarily that this is the same place. We don't know for sure. But the pillars matching, the door matching, it's at least a very similar structure to the one that is under this plant. And here we can see Zelensky meeting a NATO official, an advisor, and they are coming through what you can see it back here is that big blast door. So that massive blast door back here, everything's been painted. It's all been updated. Remember, they had time. They probably have been setting up this assembly line for over a year, 2 years. Are you saying that the Iskander didn't hit the Patriot? Is there any evidence of the second Iskander missing its target? No, the Patriot was not the target. The target was the assembly areas inside that the Patriots were protecting. So no, a Patriot was not targeted. The Russians would have claimed that a Patriot was targeted if a Patriot was targeted. And this was also the facility where the new long-range jet drones, they call them cruise missiles. These are the long-range jet drones that also may have been destroyed. There's another one. It's the, I can't remember what they're called. What are they called? Where is it? It might be in the next one. Anyway, so here's the facility. And this is going to matter because you're going to see an aerial view of the explosion here in a little bit. But this is where I believe the assembly line is located. You will see that this building is completely gone, and it looks like the floor is caved in above the substructure that is underneath it. And remember that the blast blew out from the floor right here. So this substructure is massive underneath this area. Here's another picture of him in the same facility. Again, the beams are the same. The door is the same. It's a very similar looking shelter. Again, that does not necessarily mean this is the shelter, but the Russians claimed that this was a drone assembly line. Here he is meeting Sursky underground, and there they are shaking. So just a bunch of pictures from inside, and this was all revealed by United 24 Media. And then here is that video. So I'm going to play that now for you guys. You will see a secondary explosion. This does not come from a Russian munition. You can see that the building is already on fire. has likely already been hit by an Iskander based on the size and amount of damage. It looks very deep. It looks like the fire is already in the substructure basement area. And I'm sorry, guys, I have the hiccups. So here we go. Here comes another cook-off. Scares him, gets back into his room. You can see it's exploding from underneath the floor. And then it will show you in the day. So we're going to look at this. It's kind of hard to get it to pause. But as you can see back here, you can see that this building right here, this is where the explosion came out. So I don't know why there would be something in the storefront. The explosion just blew literally the whole building out into the road. You can see all of this sand and debris from the substructure that got blown out. And then you can even see back here that the entire building is collapsed down and depressed. Another huge, huge red flag for this is that we did not see a single propaganda video from this area at all. The Ukrainian government did not talk about it. They did not do firefighter propaganda, which they do every time a civilian structure is hit. Even if there was military inside, they still make the propaganda push. It'll be blurred. You know, they'll have literally blurred military bodies on the ground and be like, look at what they did to the civilians. None of that. Huge red flag when the Ukrainians don't utilize a Russian strike for propaganda. But yeah, so this is, I did a lot of work on this trying to figure out what this strike was. And I'm pretty certain that they got that long range drone assembly line. You can see that the substructure is all the way right here, and right there. Now, does it mean that the one I'm showing you pictures of is the one that got destroyed? Not necessarily, but it makes sense. They said it was in Kiev. The Russians say they targeted a drone assembly line, a long-range drone assembly line. The explosions you saw were from thousands of pounds of explosives under this bunker, right? They had enough force to literally eject this entire building out into the road. This entire section of the building is just gone, and the explosion came from back here. So thousands of kilograms of explosives in this bunker area, and probably a decent number of at least the equipment that is being used to develop these long-range drones. This is not necessarily a drone storage, only a drone production facility. So the parts come in, the drones are constructed, they're sent out to storage. Then from storage, they go to staging. Staging, they get launched into Russia. Ain't no way you fucks are this retarded. Are you talking about me? Because I just presented a full constructed argument with evidence and proofs. Yeah. Look, I'll just do one of these. I'll just do one of these. I've been working on my banner game, boys. We've been figuring it out. We've been getting on it. So now I got a ticker tape to tell people that they're wrong. All right. All right, guys. Let's see. Do I have any other parts of this that I wanted to show? Let's see. Again, the firefighters can't go in because they're worried about secondary explosions, but you can see that the entire substructure here has just blown up. This is a significant amount of damage. Let's go to the end of that video again. Yeah, you can see that this entire place is just leveled. All right. And that was it. Okay. Okay. We have some questions here. Let me get through these, and then we can sort of open it up and have a little bit of a discussion before I wrap it up. All bunkers in Ukraine were built during the Soviet Union. FSB Russian forces most likely knew about this area from their own archives. Yeah, I'm sure. And I think that the more important aspect is not so much that the drone storage assembly area got hit, but that this was a NATO initiative, right? This was a hard NATO R&D and intelligence operation being pushed inside of Ukraine to do more damage to Russia. I think that's more the retaliation than the actual assembly line being destroyed. Scotty, where is the Ukraine intel chief? Did Russia score a goal and not saying too much about it? Are you talking about Bundanov? He never is public. He's rarely in public. So, no, I don't think anybody's been killed. I think that you would know about it pretty quick if it happened. All right. If you guys have some comments, questions, go ahead and get them in. I'll be looking at the chat a little bit, and then we'll get out of here. I don't think there was much else I had to talk about. Let me see. There was a Iranian leak. The Iranians claimed that they have achieved a major intelligence victory over the Israelis. They say that they basically have uncovered a massive amount of Israeli intelligence operations in the Middle East. They also got classified information about the Diora site, which is the Israeli nuclear arsenal, strategic nuclear arsenal facility. Basically, the Iranians claim that they got a shipload of intelligence, if that makes sense. I don't know what is something that carries a lot of stuff, and that this intelligence, they basically came out and publicly admitted it, which now makes me believe that the Israelis know that they have this intelligence. So now they're coming out and saying it. However, they're saying they're going to release this information over months, maybe years, as it becomes non-critical to Iranian counter operations, I guess you would say, in the region. What was hit in Lutsk? I believe let me see. I can go to my Twitter here. I believe in Lutsk, it was just more military industrial facilities. So just workshops and plants. Let me see. I misspelled it. Classic. Yeah, I think it was just the industrial zone with the smoke towers, I think, up. But I haven't got a clear idea of what was hit in that part of the country, or in that region. I don't have an exact answer for you. Do you still believe one of the Russian goals for the summer is a Kherson bridgehead? Oh, yeah, I forgot to say that. Yeah, Kherson bridgehead. Sorry. My bad. Yes, I do think that the Russians are going to create some sort of bridgehead into the Kherson region around this area. It won't be anything spectacular or major, just another area that the Ukrainians will have to respond to for PR reasons. Yes, good question. Sorry, I did miss that. Fiber optic drones versus fab, which is more effective? Oh God. I mean, it is hard to argue with dropping a, 2,000 kg bomb on somebody, or 3,000 kg bomb, or whatever, 1,500, whatever it is. But fiber optic drones have done such a devastating amount of damage because the entire battlefield was set up to counter FPV drones, right? But wireless. So EW, netting, stuff like that. These fiber optic drones can fly very low, very calmly. They'd never get interrupted. They have a very solid feed the entire time. And they can fly just past into very sensitive areas that are highly protected and do significant damage, right? And so this is why fiber optics are so important. I would say for the Russian military, they've been more important than the JDAM and Hammer have been to the Ukrainian military, for sure. But it's hard to argue with for Fab 500s just leveling a position, because you don't really need a fiber optic drone if you can just take out all the electronic warfare with a big ass bomb. Okay. Making sure I got all the questions before I start answering other people here. When is Trump going to explicitly announce that from now on Europe will have to buy weapons from the U.S. to supply Ukraine? Whenever they're ready, brother. He's still playing the trying to achieve peace. Now he's saying he should not. You should give me stream mod. I can do that. I can do that. Can I do that right now? Is that possible? Do I have to go to like my YouTube channel to do that? We can talk about it after, but I would love to know how to give you mod. We'll figure it out. We'll figure it out after this. That'll be the next thing. AMK mapping gets to be a mod on my chats. What did Jane say? Poland is already richer than Russia. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Okay, sure. Polish pride. Hey, it's Pride Month. Be prideful. AMK mapping is gay. Don't think so. I mean, maybe he's like actually gay, but who cares? Do you mean like I always say gay like an annoying person. Like I don't mean gay like homosexual. Because who cares? Who honestly cares? You're just way too worried about other people, bruh. You're so worried about him being gay that you had to bring up that he was gay, which makes you seem a little gay. Right? Right? Don't get me wrong. No one is neutrally gay. That's funny. Wait, okay, here we go. Kale McCullen. All right, Kale. Yes, because Kalibrated could not push their BS Russian disinformation, malinfo propaganda. Holy boys, this is it. We made it. Here we go. Hold on. I got to get ready for this one. I am now a Russian disinformation, malinfo propagandist. You hear that, boys? I'm a universal threat. I come from every direction and disrupt narratives and push my imperialistic Russian desires on people while I speak great English and just critique U.S. foreign policy. You figured it out, brother. All right, let me finish reading this. Unless they block people for pushing back, y'all are in an echo chamber and delusional. I'm reading your comment. What are we talking about here? What is this, Kale? By the way, you spell it with a K and it's a vegetable, you fucking dip. What do you mean? How are we in an echo chamber? I have AMK mapping in here. Oh, wait, he works for me. AMK, it goes Putin, Shoigu. Who else would be there? Probably Zelensky and Sersky. And then me and AMK are right under that. We're the deep agents. We sit up at night, me and AMK, and we talk and we wait for transmissions on ham radio signals high in the atmosphere for our secret intelligence operations that we're running. It's pretty sick, dude. I wish we were as cool as you guys said we were. I wish I was just out here pushing all this malinformation. I give you malware on your computer with all the information I'm pushing. You guys are so stupid. I swear, you are so special and stupid in your own unique way. It's impressive. Hey, enter my DMs and let's have a full conversation, brother. I am not in any echo chamber. I will destroy you on any topic you want. Throw it up. Let's go. Come on my podcast. Let's have a debate. Let's do it. Kale McCullen wants to spread his narrative and try to counter my evil Russian narratives. Go ahead, Kale. Go ahead. Kale the snail. Despite having done a bro chat with the two of you, I've never seen you and AMK together. I suspect you're the same person. I just hired somebody to pretend to be AMK sometimes. There's some random kid in New Zealand that I just dox and use a VPN and just run it through his thing. And he just has no idea why he's getting all this pro-Ukrainian hate. Oh, man. Yes, I am AMK. AMK is me. We are one. He's up 12 hours and then I sleep and I'm up the other 12 hours. So I'm never really asleep. I just constantly work and I have to keep two separate narratives going. How much energy do I have? I can barely get on here on a timely fashion to do a single goddamn live stream. You guys think I'm running two accounts? Unbelievable. How many poles do you need to steal? Can you ever have enough poles? Trick question. Yes, you can. A busload at least. The New Zealander accent was very convincing. You just sound like an idiot. That's Australian, British, New Zealand. They're all the same. Just garbage English that just doesn't sound good. That's all it is. And you spell things. You spell things the dumbest way possible. And you say aluminium. No, aluminum. Aluminum, like an idiot. That's how you say it. Aluminum. Like you're deaf. Did Kale say anything else? Dang, Kale got called. Oh, wait, here he is. Oh, what makes you think Russia can keep the war for another 4 years? Ukraine can. Just what? He says we're in an echo chamber. He is in so much of an echo chamber that he ignores what Ukrainian officials are saying. He actively ignores what Ukrainian soldiers on the front line are saying. That's how much of an echo chamber Kale is in. Kale the snail. What are we going to do with you, friend? Do you think Putin will take Duda for a walk? Yeah, I mean, once they unite, the Russians and the Poles really don't have that same relationship. See, the Ukrainians and Poles, they hate each other because Ukrainians massacred the Poles in the 1940s and now celebrate the people who did that massacring, have parades for them and have streets named after them, stuff like that. You know, the normal, very adjusted and hinged stuff that a country does after sponsoring and supporting a genocide or ethnic cleansing or whatever you want to call it, pogrom, whatever you want to call it. Anyway, they hate each other. Ukraine is literally going back and forth with Poland right now over recognizing or celebrating certain aspects of the genocide, having a day for it, things like that. Just like I said, very normal things for a country to do. It'd be like Germany having like an Anne Frank day just for fun, you know? I love it, dude. I love it. This is so fun. I love talking like this. This is so fun. I feel manic. I just feel so manic. Let's see. You guys are all having conversations with yourself. Oh, you cobots have to think, why is it that most of the world's countries support Russia and why is the only maker? Yeah, you would think, but no, they don't think. See, you are thinking about the conflict logically. You're thinking about it in a cold, calculated manner. Why does China, India, Saudi Arabia, Brazil, all of these countries support Russia? Why? Why is it so? Even Israel doesn't really not support Russia, which is a very weird, like, little thing they got going on. They've never been really critical. It's bothered the Ukrainians because Zelensky has been very pro-Israeli. The Israelis don't want to make an enemy of the Russians, and that makes sense, right? Maybe from a grander geopolitical aspect, you could say the Russians are allied with the Iranians, and the Iranians don't like the Israelis, but it's kind of like not their problem kind of deal. Like, deal with it later. So yeah, no, you would think they would notice that. You would think they would say, when they say things like Russia's a terror state or Russia's committing a genocide in Ukraine, they would do things like look at publicly available statistics on Ukrainian military losses versus civilian losses and realize that this is one of the most safe and humane wars for the civilian population that has ever been fought on this scale in human history. If you look at the Israelis, they've killed 100,000 plus people in 20 months, whereas the Russians have killed 25,000 total civilians. That's both sides too. That's just Ukrainians. So Ukrainians on Donetsk, when they die, are counted as Ukrainian civilian casualties. When they die in Melitopol, Russian-controlled Zaporozhye, that is a civilian casualty, right? 25,000 across multiple battles, 3 years of war, thousands and thousands of missiles and drones that have been launched. Kharkov got hit 56 times yesterday. 56 times, and no civilians died. Russia is the worst genocider of all time in Ukraine right now. I should be very careful about my words because there's a lot of history there. But in Ukraine, at the current moment, Russia is not doing anything of the sort. So it's just these narratives, these boxes that people get stuck in. Kale the snail. He likes getting stuck in closets and stuff like that, I'm sure. So, oh, here we go. AMK mapping beefing with Kale. If Russia can't continue the war for 4 more years, then how come European leaders are preparing for an imminent Russian invasion? How come the Ukrainians are saying that the Russians are going to push to the river? How come the United States is saying that the Ukrainians need to settle this now because they can't keep fighting? How come all of the things that are so obvious right in front of your face? How come? They can't answer your questions. It's pretty legitness. Oh, I heard you've been smoking so much crack that your hair does not glow anymore. My hair doesn't glow? Hey, what are we talking about here? What are we talking about here? My hair never glue. Okay. Oh, my hair doesn't grow. Can't read. Can't read, boys. My hair doesn't grow anymore. No. The crack had nothing to do with that. Is that true? Bro, get help. No. Crack? Come on, guys. There's way better drugs than crack. Mushrooms, LSD, so much better. Way more fun. You don't feel like paranoid and shit like I think meth makes you feel. I don't know. I've never done meth. I hear crack, meth, and like heroin, those drugs, they will literally fundamentally change the way your brain works to where you only want that forever. And I don't want to do that to myself because I would be the best addict, I guess. You could say the worst, best, I don't know. This is a good question. How do you destroy every RU bomber and then get hit by RU bombers again the next day? How does that even work? It doesn't. It doesn't work. Works for the Russians. AMK mapping because they back themselves into a rhetorical corner. Yeah. All right, boys. I'm going to wrap it up there. Thank you so much. I'll finish off here. Scott is like Agent 47. He needs to be bald. Otherwise, you cannot scan the barcode on the back. Yeah, it's like the Matrix. The Matrix. I have that. Spink right back there. Get me into the simulation. All right, guys. Thank you so much. This has been episode 155 of Calibrated with Scott. Thank you for hanging out with me these last 13 minutes, just bullshitting as well. It is always a pleasure talking to all of you. I have so much fun doing these. I have a problem getting them started, but then once I get in them, I have such a good time. So I appreciate you all so much. Thank you for your questions. Thank you for your comments. Thank you for your likes, your subscribes, whatever you guys can do. I appreciate you so much. Take care. Have a blessed weekend, and I will see you the next time I see you. Goodbye.